Hello and welcome to rounds 3 and 4 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. We're in the sunny city of Valencia in southern Spain, just after lunchtime on a bright spring Sunday afternoon, and the temperature already close to 30 degrees air temperature, over 43 degrees of track temperature as the cars head out into the shimmering heat haze that is the Race 1 grid. Looking there at Alain Menu starting down in an unaccustomedly low 10th place on the grid. Teammate Ivan Muller, the double world champion, or double reigning world champion, and three-time World Touring Car champion, is the man who starts on pole position. Well, his teammates Rob Huff and Alain Menu struggle to match his pace in qualifying. Huff 0.6 away, Menu 1.2 seconds away, but he has got close rivals on the front row of the grid. Well, hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Sitting alongside me is World Touring Car driver Harry Folkard. Harry, Muller certainly had the pace in qualifying. Hot temperatures today, the question is, can he keep it up in the race? Yeah, that's one thing doing it over one lap, and we always knew that the Chevrolet was going to be quick over one lap. Today, right, well, we're about to find out how competitive it's going to be over a race distance. I know that the BMWs, we were talking earlier on with a couple of the BMW drivers, and they said they're struggling a little bit with rear tyres, but the fronts are okay. But obviously a front wheel drive will eat its front tyres much faster than a rear wheel drive will do its rears, so I suspect we'll see them struggling a little bit towards the end. It just depends on how much of a lead he can build up at the start, really. The BMW drivers would like it as hot as humanly possible. Well, after having a time taken away in Q1, the first period of qualifying, Ivan Muller did make it into the Q2 period, and when he got his flying lap going, he was certainly in a class of his own. Gabriele Tarquini was challenging him for pole. Tarquini in the SAT, you'll remember, was the man who sat on pole at Monza for the season opener. But Ivan put in a peerless lap. He was comfortably clear of Gabriele, 2/10 up in the first sector alone. Girlfriend Justine celebrating there, along with Ivan. Takes his first pole of the season. That moves him on to a career total of 12 poles now. And the question is, can he add to his 24 career wins here? He has won more World Touring Car races now than anyone else, and looks well poised to do the same again. He starts on the inside, the driver's left of the track here. Gabriele Tarquini alongside him. Tom Coronel third, so you've got Chevy, Seat and BMW in the top three. Then teenager Pepe Oriola, great qualifying for him to line up fourth. And Rob Huff in fifth position, the second of the Chevys. Norbert Michelis top independent. BMW in sixth position ahead of rivals Franz Hengstler, Alexei Dudicalo, whose car is A1 again after fire after qualifying. Alain Menu ninth and Stefano D'Aste in 10th place. And there are now three different formats of Seat on the grid. You've got the brand new petrol engine built by Orica, last year's petrol engine built by Lehman for Sunred, and the diesel engine which Tom Boardman is using in his car. Boardman, though, doubly hamstrung, as is near rival Tom Chilton. They start 21st and 22nd on the grid for both races. James Nash, now we've got a footbox in his camera. He does actually know which is left and right, but it being April the 1st, he decided on a little gag there for the TV cameras, and he will be driving the Team Aon Ford Focus. Brand new car to the championship, started their campaign at Monza. 16th on the grid, had a problem with Tom Chilton's engine which required an engine change overnight, but both drivers seem to be happy with the balance of the car, so looking for a little bit of improvement in the race compared to their qualifying pace. Under the bonnet of his car, Cars on the grid and drivers trying hard not to get too hot waiting for the start of this race. Air temperature getting up towards 30 degrees as we look at Stefano D'Aste in the Vica Sport BMW, and the Italian who spent most of last year racing GT cars, Lotuses, which is what his family business is. He runs a Lotus dealership and a Lotus repair agency. He's there in that green, white and red car, of course, the Italian colours, the tricolor, not only on his car but on his race suit, and he is the joint championship leader in the Yokohama Independent Series with Pepe Oriola and Alex McDowell. 9th on the grid, very disappointing qualifying, you've got to think, for Alain Menu, but it does mean that he's going to be near the front for the second race, so perhaps he'll try and go as far as he can in race 1 and then look maybe towards scoring his first win of the year in race 2.
Yeah, he's starting second in race 2, just behind Tarquini, well, alongside Tarquini, and he's got Dudicalo and Coronel behind him, so he's definitely got a chance from there as long as he can stay ahead of Coronel. I think all those front-wheel drive guys are going to be thinking, try and keep the BMW back.
Alexei Dudicalo lining up in 8th place after qualifying. Good run through qualifying for him in the second of the Lukoil cars, but it did set light to itself in Parc Fermé immediately afterwards. Car is A-OK today, though. Looking here at Franz Engstler, 7th on the grid for him, and another force you expect in the Independence Trophy. He's in 4th place after the opening race, and he's just 2 points behind our 3-way tie for the lead. And again, you know, Engstler has won so many championships with BMW, has been with those cars for so many years. You always expect him to be strong. And that is the same for this guy, Norbert Michelis, who you remember was leading race 2 in Monza till he hit a pigeon, although we're told it was a turtle dove. Nevertheless, clearly the pigeons are banned in the front end of his car from here on in.
Yeah, he was pretty unlucky with that. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw a car in the lead hit a pigeon and then for it to actually slow it down and damage something.
Yeah, definitely. But these cars, you know, particularly at Monza where you're so marginal on everything, these cars are very highly strung. They're not standard road cars. So it definitely either upset him or his car. And there you see Rob Huff, 5th on the grid. Lies 2nd in the championship. Followed Ivan Muller home in both races in Monza. The Chevy Cruze is still a very potent weapon, there's no question about that, and from 5th place Huff will be hoping to move forward, and definitely at the expense of this young man, Pepe Oriola, 4th on the grid. Again, very good qualifying run from him. First year in the championship last year, and again as a second-year driver, it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either you build on what you know, or you have that sort of slump where your expectations are higher and you can't match them, and then you get yourself into a bit of a mental tailspin. But he looks like he's having a really good time here.
Yeah, he's doing a great job around this circuit as well. He seems to have found a lot of pace and performance.
Well, 3rd quickest in qualifying, Tom Coronel. So BMW 3rd on the grid. Coronel 3rd in race 1 here last year. And that was the first time on speed that a BMW had been on the podium in Valencia, I think in about 5 years in race 1. There were some race 2 podiums. In fact, there was a couple of BMW, at least one BMW won 2 in race 2s when we used to have the top 8 reversed here in Valencia, but it's always been a circuit on which front-wheel drive cars have dominated. Gabriele Tarquini, 2nd on the grid in the Seat. Now, he doesn't have the inside line down to the first corner. He's going to have to go around the outside of Ivan Muller to try and lead this race. But he's got a lot of support, a lot of fans in the crowd and in the grandstands, and a lot of potential to go out and win races. He feels he's got a really strong car. So, of course, does Ivan Muller. Now, they're carrying an extra 40 kilos of ballast for winning the championship for the opening couple of race weekends in the Chevy Cruze. That goes when they get to the streets of Marrakesh. So at the moment, Ivan is probably at his weakest hour, which means that if his rivals can't capitalise now, Lord help them when we get to Marrakesh, Hungary and beyond. Because it's not just the time you're working, it's got to be out the pit lane as well within that 15 minutes. Yeah,
it's a massive rush, and if you have a bit of damage, it's you know, depending on obviously how severe it is, that can really scupper your second race. So that's one thing which the WTCC guys who've just moved across, it'll take a little while to adapt to. You really just have to stay clean in race 1 and completely avoid contact, or else it can damage your entire weekend.
Well, Ivan Muller leading the field around. Everybody left the grid safely. Ivan Muller, the championship leader from teammate Rob Huff and Alan Menu. Tom Coronel lies third. It will point ahead of Gabriele Tarquini. Tom Coronel fourth, rather, ahead of Tarquini. Tarquini, though, second on the grid. And if anybody's going to beat Menu here, Muller here, rather, you've got to look at Spider-Man as being chief among those. Well, down in the Team Aon Ford garage, they are talking to their drivers. Here's James Nash, better placed of the two Fords. On row 8 of the grid, 16th spot for him. Pepe Oriola, 4th place. Great opportunity to produce a really big result here in Spain for him. If he can get on the podium, that will be a really good job. I think he's got to be realistic and expect not to catch Muller, but he'll be battling with Huff behind, Michaelis behind, Coronel in front, maybe Tarquini in front. We could have a really, really fascinating battle. For Coronel, well, that's Michaelis' team boss, you know. They're hoping for a bit of good luck here. Norbert was on for a podium in race 2 last year, ended up with the BMW 123 evaporating on the last lap and becoming a Chevy 123. Gabriele's engineer Giancarlo Bruni, thumbs up. They definitely feel they've got potential to win here, Harry, and I don't think they're wrong.
No, definitely. They've been fast all weekend, and obviously with Gabriele behind the wheel, if he can get up there, then obviously anything's possible. And as we've seen many a time before, he can drive that Seat like 10 cars wide. So if he's up there, then he's going to take some serious overtaking.
Of course, the other thing we've got to contend with is that 2/3 of the grid are in the Yokohama Independence Trophy. Alex McDowell, one of the 3 leaders of that series after Monza, looking for his second rolling World Touring Car start. So here we go, we're getting ready to get things underway for rounds 3 and 4 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship here in Valencia. Safety car is heading off towards the pit lane, and poleman Ivan Muller controls the speed of the 2x2 formation.
Looks quite neatly formed so far, so they can carry it on over the grid slots.
Again, drivers have to remember that they must go through the grid markings on either side, not up the middle. Daste is way out of line, Daryl O'Young's way out of line as well. Red lights are on, O'Young's still in the middle of the road. Are they going to get the green, or will it be waved off? And they go green, and a great start from Gabriele Tarquini. This man can start a touring car like nobody else. That extra 40 kilos might be hindering Muller. You saw Thiago Montero's new white car on the grass, but Muller just gets into the first corner in front. That's not where the pass might happen. Can Tarquini swap back to the inside for turn 2? He's looking, so is Coronel. Huff is there, inside Oriola. Huff is going to be 4th. No, he's not. Oriola is sort of halfway 3rd, halfway 4th. Coronel, big slide on colder tyres. Muller leads, Tarquini, Coronel. Huff's up to 4th. 5th and 6th are Oriola and Michaelis. And lots of battling going on here in the Yokohama Trophy. Gabor Weber getting a little nudge from Fernando Monche from behind as the 2 Bamboo Engineering Chevys run side by side. That might have been Gabriele Tarquini's last chance to get by Ivan Muller until the closing stages of this 13-lapper. In the hope that Muller's tyres go off, Tarquini will have to keep pushing, but he's under pressure. And
Banani going around first,
and somebody's off in the gravel on the exit. Was that Boardman on the gravel?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, what a nightmare.
It looked like a black Seat to me.
So Ivan Muller, the race leader, then will catch up with who went off, because they're on page 2 of the timing screen. And Muller pulling away from Tarquini and Coronel. And up the inside comes Menu, goes by Dudicalo. So Menu was 8th at the 2nd timing interval. He's now up to 7th from 9th on the grid, picking up a couple of places. That's Alberto Cecchi, and Stefano Daste's dropping down the order. 12th position for Daste. He started in 10th.
I think Daste had a little bit of contact at the start there. He's got a bit of rubber down the side of his car, so I don't know if maybe he's had a little nudge at some point.
Well, Nash has got by him, so James Nash up to 12th position. That's a good start from 16th on the grid. Ivan Muller leads, very quick opening lap, 1:47.4. And Tarquini behind by 1.3 seconds. It is Muller and the rest. Gopher Cam showing how much of the curb they're using. You can straddle it. You can't have all 4 wheels inside that turn 1 curbing. And big slide out wide from McDowell, I think, in the background.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sideways there. I think it disappeared in the exit stage left.
Montero and Nash battling for 11th. Good stuff from James Nash. Fringes of the top 10 already from 16th on the grid. That's a great getaway. Chilton's 19th. And Montero feeling the pressure. Nash has got Cheki behind him as well. And of the two cars here, you've got to say that Nash's Ford looks a lot more composed than Thiago Montero's Seat. Menu getting a run on the inside of Norbert Michaelis. Can he take the place away? This is for 6th. Yes, he does.
Yeah, he has to make that stick early on as well, as we've said about the tyres. You know, he needs to make. He'll be well aware of that. He doesn't want to get stuck there for too long and cook his own tyres.
So Michaelis down to 7th. He's got Dudicalo and Engstler behind him. Pepe Oriola is the lead independent. Michaelis 2nd. Dudicalo 3rd. Engstler 4th. So again, different point scoring for those two groups of drivers, either the factory cars or the independence cars. Muller, Tarquini, Coronel, Huff, that's your lead group.
Pepe Oriola is still lead independent, but he's got Michaelis all over the back of him, and obviously Menu's trying to find a way through there as well, so that could play an important role.
Well, Oriola, first sector of this lap, as quick as the race leader, quicker than anybody else on sector 1. Not as quick on sector 2, but that means he's got a good run through the first couple of corners, and he's right up with Rob Huff now. There's Coronel 3rd, Huff 4th with the Union flag on his Chevrolet, and Oriola, the white and blue Seat, in 5th position, the lead independent. Menu is closing the gap though. Oriola's going to find himself stuck between two Chevys, but Huff started 5th, he's only got to 4th. It's going to be a long battle of attrition if he wants to get to Muller.
Muller's banging some awesome laps in as well. He's pulled out nearly 2 seconds in those opening laps, and it's just fastest lap after fastest lap.
Right, he's going to drive away from Tarquini until the tyres tell him he can't anymore. So the opening 3 or 4 laps, he's really got to push it. There is Stefano D'Aste up behind Alberto Cecchi. This is the battle for 13th. D'Aste had a little spin on the previous lap, which is why he's dropped down a few positions. Undoubtedly the red mist will have descended a little, trying to recover from that now. He's up behind James Nash and Thiago Montero. So it's a big long queue of cars here, all battling for position.
Yeah, it's very close, isn't it? It's pretty much line astern throughout most of the grid.
Now the BMWs have got to be a little bit patient here and pile the pressure on the front drive cars, but without killing their own front tyres, because locking them up would be very easy to do, or power sliding the car off the corners too much, that'll damage them as well. Behind the battle there with the Union flag on his roof, number 11, that's Alex McDowell. At the moment he's 8th or so in the Yokohama Independence Trophy standings. Joint series leader coming in here. Darrell Young having a good run, top 10 in front of Montero, Nash, Cecchi, D'Aste, McDowell, then a tiny gap to Weber, Monche, Charlie New. Tom Chilton 19th has moved up 1 spot from the grid. And so in the background there, Nash pulling out of the slipstream, trying to defend against Thiago Montero.
I think this could be a bit of drama about to unfold here. It looks like everything's bunching up a little bit behind the Ford, and I think there's...
big lock up from Cecchi. So Montero starting to pull away from James Nash, you're right. Nash with a blue, all blue bonnet. Chilton's is half blue, half white. It's an easy way of spotting them. And Alberto Cecchi with less red on his Royal Motorsport BMW than Tom Coronel. Well, pretty even start. Tarquini gets away well though, doesn't he? Look, he's in front of Muller as they cross the line, but the lights had gone out, so he's allowed to accelerate, so I don't see there's a penalty for that. No, being quicker at accelerating shouldn't be penalised, should it?
No, it was a great start, to be fair. It shows the strength of that new Seat engine as well.
Yeah, a big step forward for them. Now, looking at the domino effect here. Oh, and Chilton coming up the inside on the grass, as did Boardman, ended up losing out. Bernardi got sideways, on board with James Nash. Following Darrell Young around the outside there. He's looking for a gap in the traffic. That's Bernardi alongside him. So it's very busy those first couple of corners, because corner 1 you barely brake for and you're rushing headlong into turn 2, which is a big stop.
Yeah, it's a like you say, turn 1's a fast corner and turn 2's a big stop, and quite often it was quite surprised there wasn't more contact there. Quite often there's some fairly big chunks there.
So looking here at the battle for 12th place, the white and blue Ford, the dark blue and white BMW Cecchi behind Nash. then Daste with the red, white and green, then McDowell with the Union flag on the roof of his Chevy. See Tom Chilton pulling out of the slipstream, trying to put in a move to stay in front of Isaac Tutumlu, whose window has popped out on the door. Chilton does stay in front.
Boardman's got back going again as well. You can see him just in the background, so I'm sure we'll see him coming back up through the field.
Very disappointed after qualifying. Last time Tom Boardman raced here, he's 21st at the moment. Last time he raced here, if you improved in race 1, say from the 20s up into the teens, that's where you started for race 2. Here, your qualifying performance in qualifying 1 seals you into your grid position for both races.
Yeah, it's not the best system in the world, is it? Doesn't seem entirely fair.
It seems particularly unfair, particularly to the independents, you know, or to anybody else. Let's say even Ivan Muller or Rob Huff or one of the championship front runners. If you make a mistake on the opening lap of qualifying or something breaks and you don't qualify, you're at the back for both races. Your weekend effectively is over. You might as well go shopping.
Yeah, definitely. There's Gabriel Weber trying to make a move on McDowell as well.
Battle for 15th place. Alberto Cecchi's going to have no tyre left soon as he holds off Stefano Daste. There's Pasquale Di Sabatino with the Italian colours, battling with, that's 22nd placed Benani, I think. McDowell and Weber squabbling. Di Sabatino was 22nd, Benani's got by him from 23rd to 22nd. You know, Engstler in 9th.
Look at the gap that Muller's built there. He's playing this well, isn't he? You know, he's got that gap, like you said, to Tarquini, and Tarquini's holding Coronel off, so he's doing everything he has to, really.
Daste finally gets the better of Alberto Cecchi, who's outbraked himself once too often. Daste moves up then. And Alain Menu's got ahead of Pepe Oriola, so Menu up to 5th. Huff is 4th. But Muller, last lap at 144.6. His fastest lap at 144.1. And so he is back right off. He's holding a 3-second gap over Tarquini. Tarquini's last lap was a 1:45, so Muller's got plenty in the hand, and Alexei Dudicalo is in the pit lane out of the top 10 because his car has had a front suspension failure. It caught light all on its own yesterday, and now the front end's playing about, so he's not having much in the way of luck. Tutumlu battling with Monche. Monche raced in the European Touring Car Cup last time out in Monza. So this is his first World Touring Car start. Tom Chilton's getting his sleeves rolled up to get stuck into this as well. Monche skids a little wide. Chilton looking for traction there, but that's a tough corner, isn't it, to find traction downhill, tightening left-hander.
Yeah, it's difficult. You can see Zirki's, those tyres must be like 50p pieces by now. Every time he touches the brake pedal, they're both locking up.
Yeah, so James Nash hanging on in his Fords to 11th place.
He's got back past Daste as well.
Yep, Daste had that little spin that dropped him behind this group, so Daste's tyres won't be the best either. And as the race progresses, how will the Ford's fronts compare to the other rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive cars in front? And here's Chilton. Look, he's found a curb to get his wheels up in the air. He's never happier than when waving the floor at the crowd, Tom Chilton. Didn't get by Monche in their battle, though, for 17th, 18th, 19th. Ivan Muller still the race leader, 6 laps in, 13 laps the race distance. So we are now halfway around lap 7, that's halfway into the race. Alexei Dudicalo in the pit lane, they can work on that car now until the end of the race without any penalty, because he will have his grid pace already set for race 2. Yellow car in the foreground of Daryl O'Young battling with Thiago Montero, 9th and 10th, and then this queue for 11th, the white and blue Aeon Ford of James Nash in 11th, Alberto Cecchi, Stefano Daste, pause for breath, not a quick one though, Alex McDowell and Gabor Weber, 14th and 15th behind. And so far, nothing too much to trouble the stewards. The stewards' driving advisor, who in Monza was John Cleland, is Darren Turner this weekend, who's done a whole host of sports car racing, but also, of course, raced in the British Touring Car Championship, so he knows touring cars as well. And that's a great bonus for the drivers to know that they've got somebody who really gets this stuff in the stewards' room if you have to examine, well, incidents maybe like this, where it all comes a little bit push to shove.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously, like you say, Darren's got first-hand experience of touring cars, and he's always been a clean driver himself, so he'll make a reasonable and a good decision, which is just what you want, really.
Tom Boardman drifting out wide there and allowing room for a pass, I think, for 20th place from Mehdi Benani. Down the straight behind the lead group comes Nash. Again, he's got BMWs in both mirrors as we ride with Coronel. Coronel's last lap of 45.5 and 45.9 for Tarquini. Are we now starting to see the balance? Even Cherki with ragged tyres is looking again to get by James Nash. Are the front-wheel drive cars starting to run out of tyre now?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is what we're going to see here, and Nash is going to have to drive a wide focus here. I think actually Darren's probably going to have a little bit of work cut out for him in a minute. That's all looking a little bit heated.
Well, meanwhile, Coronel is the man most likely to, isn't he? He's having a really good look at Gabriele Tarquini. There are easier drivers to get a pass on than Gabriele Tarquini. There are lots of easier drivers. He's very tough indeed to get by, particularly when he's clinging onto a podium spot. And he knows that if he opens the door in the wrong place for Coronel, boy, Huff and Menu are right there. You're not going to get passed by one. You're going to get hung out while three go by.
Yeah, Coronel will punch the hole and the two Chevys will scoop the meat, as it were. If he allows a little gap, it's just going to be a train of cars coming through, and he'll all of a sudden find himself a fair bit further down the grid than he is now.
Well, Muller, the leader, is 4.4 seconds ahead of this, but he has been a good second off his fastest laps for the last 4 or 5 laps. So he is looking after his tyres in case he has to defend later. And of course, Tom's going to have to use his up to get by Tarquini and then to catch Muller. So Muller may have some answer to him at the end of the race, should the BMW of Coronel come a-looking. And there, that little replay from Tarquini. Look, he's alongside. He had an overlap there. But again, this Seat engine doesn't hang around in a straight line. It's a power unit, no question.
I think, to be honest, I wouldn't actually think Muller's holding back. I think he's probably still pushing. It's just the actual tyre degradation. I mean, if you look at Huff's last lap, it was a 46.6 against his best, which was a 44.8. So, almost 2 seconds slower. And it's the same for Menu as well.
Well, of course, Huff and Menu are in this queue behind Tarquini, who's lapping barely inside the 47-second margin. Muller's on his own, unrestricted by anybody else. And, this is Tom trying to find a run on Gabriele, and Gabriele having to get on the brakes earlier and earlier now because the pedal is going away from him, and also the tyres are not giving of their best. But still, so few straight lines here of any length. It's going to be very tough for Coronel to put in this pass.
Yeah, it is, and I'm sure it's going to happen, but it's just exactly how it's going to happen, which obviously it's going to unfold in a second. But I think Gabriele at the minute must be just trying to stop the car, turn it, and then get on the power in a straight line, because there's going to be nothing there at the front.
He's having to brake earlier than Coronel is, and as a result, Tom's off throttle when Gabriele gets back on, and so he just gets a little half a car length off the corners. You see, Coronel is braking later, Tarquini braking earlier than he would have been earlier in the race, and so the two are coming together.
It's difficult as well in Tom's position, because if you didn't have so many people so far right behind him, he could drop back a little bit and try and get a slingshot, but if he drops back and slows himself up on the way into the corner, he'll find a Chevrolet on the inside of him.
Race control waving the black and white flag for Tom Coronel. This time that's the driving standards flag. Well, it is touring car racing. You've got to allow them to tap a little bit. He wasn't, trying to punt off Tarquini by any stretch of the imagination. Just Gabriele is getting on the brakes too early for the corners. Not deliberately to slow Coronel up, but because he has to actually get his car round, and that leaves Coronel in a very difficult position because his car can brake later and does brake later.
It was a nice little shot of Tarquini's mechanic there waving him on like, come on, go faster, but he'll be thinking, I can. I'm going as fast as I can.
It's that classic Formula One radio message, isn't it? Have you thought about driving a little bit quicker? Do you know what? No, it never occurred to me. Tom Coronel still lies third. Huff and Menu and Oriola 4th, 5th and 6th as Ivan Muller leads the race. Well, Muller's out on his own. The gap now out to 7.5 seconds as Tarquini gets into massive defence mode. James Nash still defending 11th place from Cherki, who drifts out wide, and Daste sneaks up the inside. That's what Coronel needs. Coronel needs a big mistake from Tarquini to leave the door open.
Yeah.
And Tarquini doesn't tend to make big mistakes. Huff and Menu making no progress now. They've got up behind second and third place cars.
Yeah, I think all the Chevrolet as well, all the front wheel drive cars seem to have lost their edge now, and I think this is where the BMs will be coming into their own. But it's actually happened a lot later in the race than I thought it would happen, to be honest.
Of course, they can't get by, though, can they? Oriola's now jammed up behind the Chevys of Huff and Menu, and Mikulits and Engsler are closing that gap right down as well. There's not more than about half a second between any of these cars. It's a long queue, essentially held up by Tarquini. But Coronel a little further back on the last couple of laps than he has been. Tarquini with breathing space.
Yeah, and I was going to say Daste's all over the back of Nash now. This is going to be where we see what's going to happen with. Well, the Ford seems to be preserving its tyres quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys are very happy with the chassis. There is Nash on his own, and Daste with Cherki up behind him, trying to use the slipstream so they can both get by. McDowell's there. We've got some long queues, haven't we? This is 11th. You've got Nash, Daste, Cherki, McDowell, Webber runs wide, then Tutumlu, New, Benani and Chilton all in one bunch.
Here we go, Daste's. Oh no, that's the beauty with the rear wheel drive. Sometimes you can just get on the power that bit earlier and it'll allow you to tighten the line on the exit of the corner, which is where the front wheel drive struggle. And that's it. There we see it there. Perfect
Nash
example.
drifts out wide between 4 and 5, and Daste just managed to find the room. Good driving by both men. That could so easily have ended up in paint swapping, and Daste running wide into Nash and tapping him off. So well controlled by both men. On board with Alex McDowell, currently in 14th position, and he pulls out of the slipstream to defend against Gabor Weber. Little bit of dark blue bodywork flapping there. I think that'll be off the back of either Coronel's car or very possibly off the front of Cherki's car. One of those little flaps that covers jacking points, it looked like, on board with Alex McDowell. Tell you what, he's got some grip left to play with, hasn't he? He's all over the back of Cherki, mind you.
Yeah, you can see the understeer on the turn, and there's just nothing there. It looks, you know, he's got the lock on, but the car's not really responding. It's obviously the front end's just going away, but it's still obviously drivable. He's still there with the guys, and it's the same as all these front wheel drives. It actually is really surprising that the tyres haven't dropped off the edge like I thought they would have done.
Well, for all the Chevrolet waffle about, we'll be lucky to get a car in the top 3 in qualifying. Ivan Muller sits on pole, leads the race comfortably. He's 7.7 seconds ahead of the next car, Gabriele Tarquini. And yeah, the front wheel drive cars have all started to struggle, but not so much that the BMW is really in the ascendancy. It's giving you a chink, but not much more than that.
We've got to bear in mind as well, of course, obviously the Chevrolet is heavier this time, but last year it was a lot, the ambient temperature was a lot more than it is now.
Yeah.
It was later in the year, and that could be a reason for that sort of idea that the BMs were going to be so strong. And
well, again, Isaac Tutumlu diving down the inside of Mehdi Benani, rather. They battle for 16th. Benani around the outside of McDowell, who holds his line. Benani runs out of road, and Tutumlu comes by him, his teammate. Oh, no, don't do that! Tutumlu can't shut the door. Benani's got to be somewhere. He's got to go somewhere. Benani hanging on the inside. Behind him is Charlie New. And
I think this
Gabor Weber. Well, they've all gone by Weber in that orange and black car. We talked to him at lunchtime, didn't we? And he's just really struggling. He's come from, you know, a career basically of front-wheel drive touring cars. And he said, I'm not feeling the love of the front end. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know. I can't relate to what it's telling me at the moment. And exactly as Norbert Michaelis did last year in his first year in a BMW, struggling early on. Norbert was saying, he's saying exactly what I was saying 12 months ago. I don't know what it's doing. I've got no faith in the front end.
Yeah, it must be a big difference, you know, from especially both of the guys who've done front wheel drive Seats before, and to go from that to a rear wheel drive BMW, and obviously they're saying they can't feel any communication from the steering wheel or the brakes, and they're just knowing exactly how hard to push on those front tyres, and they say the car doesn't feel like it's talking to them like they used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob Huff and Alain Menu dropping right off the back of Tom Coronel, aren't they? Remember 2 or 3 laps ago, they were nose to tail. James Nash, he's having a busy time. His mirrors are getting a lot of use, aren't they? He's very careful in his defensive lines. Takes the inside, brakes nice and early, gets the car to the apex, gets the door shut. You know, it's like a batsman playing against a spin bowler. You've got to make sure you keep the gate shut, because otherwise the guy's going to get through. And actually, you tend not to look at the mirrors, hopefully, and tend to concentrate on the racetrack, because that's how you avoid making those mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. He's driving really well and holding these guys off, and obviously they're in a much better position to overtake with more grip. So, yeah, hats off to him. He's doing a great job.
Dudicalo heading back out. What's the point? Just to make sure that everything's still attached. You don't want to find out on the formation lap going to the grid for race 2 that it's not correct. Last lap of the race. Tarquini and Coronel battling for spots on the podium. Coronel again looking for a podium finish, as he did here last year. Again all over the back of Gabriele Tarquini, as he has been all race. Muller is long gone and is going to win this at a canter. Tarquini has kept everybody else back. It's almost like they're teammates. Ivan Muller wins his 3rd race of the year, the 25th of his World Touring Car career. His quarter century comes up. Tarquini 2nd, Coronel 3rd, Huff 4th, Menu 5th, Oriola in 6th position, ahead of Norbert Michelis and Franz Engstler. Oriola, Michelis, Engstler, the top 3 independents. But Ivan Muller is our race winner, and Tom Chilton battling with Charlie New on the last lap, trying to pick up a space, doesn't quite get it done. Charlie New just hanging on the inside as they run to the line. Alex McDowell got passed by Mehdi Benani on the last lap for 14th, and Tom Chilton finishing in 19th spot. And Ivan Muller and Tom Coronel 1st and 3rd here. That's as close as Coronel's got to Muller all race long. I think he's trying to pull alongside to give him the thumbs up. I don't think Ivan's particularly paying attention to what's going on. Well, that of course will allow Muller, who is undefeated so far this season, to extend his championship advantage. His closest rivals, his own teammates, in 4th and 5th places here. Nonetheless, it is win number 3 of the season for Chevrolet. Heading down into winner's circle is Ivan Muller, the only man to have won a World Touring Car Championship race since last November. Gabriele Tarquini takes 2nd place. Another really strong result from Tarquini. 3rd place, Tom Coronel. So Muller and Tarquini already starting to look very competitive indeed for race 2. The question is, how much can they come up the grid? Rob Huff 2nd in the championship with a 2nd and a 3rd place in Monza. Alain Menu 3rd in the championship, was 2nd to Muller in race 2 in Monza. There's Ivan's daughter. Pepe Oriola comes to meet his dad and family in Parc Fermé. But Alain Menu and Rob Huff still have to find an answer to the form of Ivan Muller. In fact, in terms of pace, his closest rival is that man, isn't it? Gabriele Tarquini, which again is great news for the championship, because this new Seat engine is looking stronger, more drivable. And that's what we need. We need a group of different strong cars at the front from different manufacturers. Yeah, well, that's great. We've had 3 of the 4 different cars in the top 3 there, so that's, you know, it bodes well for the championship, really. And good race as well for the 2 Ford drivers, both getting their sleeves up and getting mixed in with it. James Nash in the end getting unseated from 11th right at the very end, but has definitely got the potential for a top 10 finish. Tom Chilton didn't quite find the speed here in the race either after disappointing qualifying, but he finished with a good run. Ivan Muller looking pretty happy. For my Italian's not good enough to debrief Gabriele there. But Tom Coronel, be pretty happy with that.
Push me harder.
You know you must push me harder. Excellent.
Well done, Tom.
Very good indeed. Well, Ben Constangiris is down there in the background. Let's have a quick word with our race winner, Ivan Muller.
Ivan, congratulations. It seemed to be all about the first few laps there and getting a good gap. Yeah, you know, here the issue was the tires, and I knew Gabriel with 50 kilo less and Tom with his BMW, which he can save the tire better than us. I was focused on my tire to make a gap immediately in the top 3 laps, and then to save and to look after my tires for the rest of the race. Unfortunately, they were fighting behind, so I lost a bit of time, and that gave me some fresh air.
Congratulations, and winner of the Independent Trophy, Pepe Orihuela, at your home circuit. Must feel good.
Yeah, it was very good. The start was a little bit difficult because I had both Chevrolets menu and half in behind me, and it was hard the first lap, and after everything was more or less okay. But at the middle of the race, Michelis with the BMW was very quick, and I had to push a lot, and the tires was a little bit bad, but it's okay. I win the race, and I'm very happy because I'm in Valencia in Spain.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, he may not be on the top 3 overall, but as he said, he has won the Yokohama Trophy race, and he will be on the podium as well here in Spain. And you can't argue with that, can you, for a Spanish driver? He looked pretty happy with that. So confirmation then of the race results. Ivan Moller, Gabriele Tarquini, Tom Coronel, 1, 2, 3 into the first corner. That's how they finished. 13-13s later, a lot of corners later. Rob Huff in 4th and Alain Menu in 5th position for Chevrolet. And top Yokohama Trophy racer was Pepe Orihuela, 6th overall, winning that class ahead of Norbert Michelis and Franz Engstler's BMWs. So the first of the 2 races has been completed, and Tom Coronel and the rest of them head up to the podium. And race 2 coming up live very shortly here from Valencia.